Joanne Young, 6582 Park Avenue. Just two things, and I know it's two things, but with a quick question. The meeting on the 8th, I'm assuming that's a public?
There will be a public, and then we may have to go into executive session based on what all of the issues are, but it's a public meeting. Yes.
Okay. The other thing, and I might be opening a can of worms, but you said something that, and it may be too big to discuss tonight, or but you mentioned that you didn't feel there was enough money being given to education in New Jersey. Isn't New Jersey one of the highest per capita student in the nation as far as what they give? And if there's not enough money going to education, and New Jersey has one of the highest that go per student.
You're asking a good question, and I would hope that the governments of the United States, I'm talking about across the country,
Okay.
would look at education, which is the most important function in any community, the way they look at war. Do you know that $19 billion a month are going for war? And when I talked to Rob Andrews about that, I thought it was $10 billion. He said, no, Dr. Johnson, it's $11 billion. And if we could just take 1 month from the war and give it to New Jersey, it would take care of the problems. No, we do not provide enough resources to do everything that we know that we can do to improve education in this district, such as coaches, such as a principal in every school. And I could go on and on and on. The money is not there to do that. Those services were there, at least the coaches, but the board, in its wisdom, to meet the dollars that were given by the state, even if we are given more than any other state. We're one of the most populated states in the country. And so I can understand why the resources come. But it does not allow districts, if districts are going to be honest, if they're going to be honest, superintendents are not honest when they say they are cutting their budgets and they're still able to provide a thorough and efficient education. They can't do it. So what I'm saying, and I don't mean to, and I'm not yelling.
I want your opinion.
Because what you're saying, I can understand why you're saying what you're saying. You know, somebody's going around the country talking about how much he gives to education. What he wants to do is give to the taxpayer. I'm not against the taxpayer because I'm one of them. I'm one of them. But I'm more concerned about what happens to these kids, because if they don't get a job to pay Social Security, I don't get my check. I don't get my check, and I want my check. So to answer if I may answer your question, yes, we get a lot of money, but we do not get enough. The Constitution of New Jersey says what? That every child is entitled to a thorough and efficient education. That's what that Constitution says.
Well, my thinking is it's maybe not that, and of course we're going to debate on this probably forever.
We will.
But
and I'll still know.
Maybe we're not using it as efficiently. Because I see our kids being bused all over the town instead of going to the school that's local to them. I see salary increases every year over and above what the private sector gets. I see little pay.
Private sector what?
Earns for the
schools?
No.
Oh, that's what you have to compare it to, the private schools, to see what they're paying their teachers. You know, we couldn't get 3, and correct me if I'm wrong, 3 qualified payroll people, because we were paying $3,200 a year. They were receiving $40,000, $45,000, and $49,000 a year.
I guess it depends on what private school you're talking about. Some religious ones earn much less than.
That's different. Religion.
Sure, I understand.
Right.
And then I also see very little paid into healthcare compared to what the private sector. So I
It just changed.
well, that's only because I just look at it differently, and I see a lot of where, but that's my opinion, a lot of places that we could say that it could go into education, it could go to extra teachers, it could go to a principal in every school instead of other places. But like I said, we're going to differ on that.
Right, sure. Mr. Starter talked about sports. There should be a tennis team here. There should be a golf team here. And there's some others that I don't know about.
Especially when we have our own golf course in town.
That's right. The township owns a golf course, and yet the high school doesn't have a golf team. Good Lord. What are we thinking about? So I can understand what you're saying. The private sector has its culture, and education has its culture. In my humble opinion, the educational system in any community is the most important machine that runs. These people sitting up here provide the greatest volunteer and even paid service to the citizens of their community. That doesn't denigrate the mayor and the city council or anybody, but education is key. Without it, we're dead. And you know what? We're dying. We're dying because we're willing to spend more in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I'm not against the soldiers, but I'm against the destruction when those dollars can help us do a better job of preparing our kids, because our kids are not going to have to compete against the kids in California and Georgia and Minnesota. They're going to have to compete against the kids in China, in Japan, in India, and then other European countries. You know one of the reasons why? Because those kids get 200 days of education or 220 days of education because those communities are willing to pay for it. Our kids get 176 at best. You see?
Well, I think, like I said, we'll debate this forever, but there's so many other things that go into hurting our education system. It's the home, it's the family, it's the
Yes,
community, it's lack of morality, it's
yes,
lack of
right,
hurt all
absolutely,
that. So,
absolutely.
so you could have the best education, but yet if they're not getting the right influence, so it's actually a greater picture. But I just wanted some clarification on that.
Okay, and that's good. And you know, I love to talk about this, but you know, sometimes you want to come by the
I'm
office.
sure I'm past my
It's not bad. Listen, this is the third night I've been out this week. I'm an old man. I need my sleep. But sometimes if you want to come past the office and talk, particularly about education and where you think could be saved, we're always looking to save. We're always looking to save. But I can tell you, I'm disturbed about the money that goes into other things that are less important. And our kids are the most valuable resource we have. And yet, we continue to cut.
But see, I look at it differently, that money doesn't necessarily mean it will solve the problem. Because I've seen people be very successful in education, in private, religious or whatnot, smaller, less salary, and put out a great product. So it's not necessarily money that makes it better. I homeschool my kids and $500 a year. So I know what can be done on very little money. And I know everyone can't do what I do, if I did. So when I see grandiose and I see huge salaries, I look at things differently, and I always look to cut and try to trim and the budget and whatnot in our home. So I just wanted to clarification.
Sure.
So I
No,
appreciate
certainly your view is an acceptable view. The major difference in your view, you're dealing with youngsters that are evidently put together.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. It's not just the school. You have a whole
That
society that
absolutely,
affects all
we have to
that.
deal with the masses.
Absolutely.
And I congratulated one of our administrators because she deals with the most difficult area in that special service.
Sure.
I mean, that's my opinion. My folks may disagree with me, but that's what I experienced. And those kids are expensive, very expensive. Each could be $40,000 and $50,000 a year to provide for their education. You know what I say? They're worth it. They're worth it. And we're going to do the very best that we can. But that's expensive. That's expensive. When you talk about $40,000 and $50,000 a year to educate a youngster. That's what universities are charging. Harvard and Penn and what have you. So, but you're absolutely right. You see, your kids, we say, are fortunate that you're able to teach them at home. And they get in, obviously, a good education if they're going to be successful. But our challenge is dealing with youngsters who do not necessarily have the support at home that you provide for your kids.
No, I understand.
And that's a miracle today. That's a miracle. So keep doing it. And
Well,
we'll
they're grown and now. But thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Make the motion to close public.
Yeah.
I withdraw. We're gonna get started.
Whoa, how much are you going to charge for coming back?
I just went back to my notes. There's something that was said earlier tonight that was not in the agenda or discussed last week. You said that Dr. Chapman is sitting on negotiation teams for the for contracts?
He's functioning as a consultant.
Okay.
And it was a good decision. Let me tell you why. Because we had a meeting, when was it?
How much are we paying him per hour?
$100 or less.
$100?
Because actually, EIRC, he's working for EIRC, not for us.
110.
Okay, 110 to EIRC and then again, but that's their business, yeah. So what is your question?
Okay, I didn't realize that Dr. Chapman was working for the
Yeah, he's
URSA as a consultant. And so you're not sitting on the negotiation?
I am.
Okay, you are. Okay, I just want to make sure you were.
Oh, yeah.
That was my only goal, was to
All
find
right,
out.
okay, right. Won't have to charge you for that.
Anyone else? Make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Robert, that passed unanimously. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I am not aware of us having anything for executive session. May I have a motion to
Make a
adjourn?
motion that we adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Robert, that passed unanimously.
Thank you, sir.